Hey there, welcome to the Omega Level Nerds. I am Don with you here, and this time around, we of course have an exciting show, as we always do. But The Mandalorian Season 3, that's out, so we're going to talk about that with a guest. And of course, the main reason for that guest to be here, which let's just go ahead and say hi to the one and only, the wily 8-Bit Ray. How's it going?
It's going just fine, my friend. Just fine indeed.
So yes, well, you had posted about the Legend of Dragoon being re-released on the PlayStation Network. You quoted that it was the greatest RPG of all time. I, you know,
But that's
didn't
not a quote,
share.
Don. That's not a quote. That's a known fact.
So I think the same of another game, Chrono Trigger. So we're gonna talk about that. That's why you're here today, and I thank you so much for being so.
Yes, sir.
Well, let's get into it. So, The Mandalorian. Now, the last time you were on the show, we had talked about Star Wars, and you had spoken about that it's too much. So,
Yep.
I know you watched the episode, at least you said you would, because I asked you to be on the show to talk about it, but let's start there. Otherwise, if you weren't talking on the show today about, The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 1, would you have watched it?
I didn't even know it was out. I've seen like
Mm-hmm.
no promotion for it. No one's talking about it, and you're like, do you want to talk about Mando? And I'm like, well, how am I supposed to do that? Because the show's not out. Oh, the first episode came out on Wednesday. I've heard nothing about it. Not good, not
Okay.
bad, not anything.
Okay.
It
Well,
seems like Disney's relying on their laurels here. Like people will come and watch it. We don't have to promote this thing. They know it's here.
Baby Yoda's here, so I can't say that they're wrong, but I was surprised to find out that you're like, oh, that's out already. Like I've not heard anything about it, and I will agree to a point. I haven't heard like this big uproar of like, oh my god, this is the greatest. I mean, it's only been out for a couple days at this point, but I don't know. I was aware of it. I was excited and gobbled it up. So you did end up watching it then for the show.
Yeah, it just ended about 20 minutes ago.
Okay, okay. So very
So it's so
fresh.
it's so it's very very fresh. Yeah,
Okay, all right. Well, what did you think of it then? Let's start there.
I thought that it didn't touch on really anything from season two, which I was a little disappointed in.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, except the fact that he's in a podcast or whatever it is.
Apostate.
Yeah, apostate. Yeah, why did I say a podcast? Oh well, either way. But But the fact that he's exiled is like the only thing that they've carried over from season two. You took off your helmet,
Yeah.
so he has his mission, and that's good. That's a good starting point because season two, if you remember, it didn't really have a mission in mind. So it's good
Yeah.
that they have a focus point for this season.
Yeah. I was surprised that they did not really do a like if you didn't watch the Book of Boba Fett, you'd be
Hmm.
like, what the fuck? Why is he in this new ship? Hey, why is Grogu there? So they didn't even bother to recap that. They just assumed, that you
That
saw
you all
Book of
watched
Boba
it.
Fett.
Yep.
I don't know how smart that is, but I'm sure most everybody knew already. But I did find that strange that there's like, oh man, they didn't recap it or anything. So it's possible that some people could be coming in and it's like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah, I thought it was really weird when they popped up with IG-11. Like in the first opening scene, you're like, okay, now
Mm-hmm.
we got to go back to season one. Okay. So, yeah, but they didn't really touch on anything on Book of Boba Fett. You're right. And they assume that everybody is all caught up and up to speed. They shouldn't have to hold your hand in this series. I guess that's how they feel. But for anybody that's not binge watched and just came across the banner at the top and they're like, oh, this show looks pretty cool and click it, they have no idea what the shit's going on.
Yeah. I personally enjoy it because I watch all the stuff and it allows me, to be the Star Wars snob. Yes, that's right. You did not watch Rebels, but I did. I know what those creatures are in hyperspace. That's right. Do you? You do not know me. You don't. So I enjoy that.
Mhm.
Uh,
So
which,
you're like John. So you're like John from Superhero Speak with anime, but just with Star Wars.
Yeah, that's fair. That's super fair. Yeah, he is, super anime elitist, but I appreciate it. But I don't even try and mix it up in anime because I'm surface level DBZ, Naruto, Gundam. He goes, he goes deep.
Deep, deep.
Uh, you mentioned the mission. So yeah, like you said, he's an apostate. Now this season opens up just like every other season of The Mandalorian opens up so far with a giant monster to be defeated.
Right.
But we see that, and one thing I didn't realize at first, but I've read and John Favreau has talked about like the Mandalorian series at this point is gone through like 7 years. Like Grogu was training with Luke Skywalker for like 2 years, so this is a far lengthier timeline than it may appear. Um, so it's just interesting. Yeah, I didn't think that was the case, but yeah, 2 years with Luke Skywalker, Grogu is. So yeah, we're gonna be seeing some force powers there. Of course, yep. Baby Yoda, aka Grogu,
Well, I
is
mean, you
there.
got a little taste of it when he got the little candy
Yeah,
out of the dish. That's really all you got. Which
but
I'm
yeah,
fine with. Which I'm fine with.
yeah,
Though they don't have to overexpose the Force in this series. This is a
right,
spaghetti western show. It's not a normal Star Wars show, which I'm perfectly
exactly.
fine with.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
little more nitty gritty. I mean, they'll go into that. We saw Luke Skywalker and Ahsoka, so they'll definitely lean into that. But yeah, you're right though. 90% of the time, it's gritty spaghetti western. Um, so this giant alligator thing, attacks whether the Children of the Watch, his old sect of Mandalorians who he's an apostate of now. They're putting a helmet on another little kid, so we're kind of seeing one of the what do they call them, foundlings. We're seeing one of them get its helmet that it'll never take off again unless it wants to also become an apostate. But he saves him from this giant crocodile creature. But yeah, then talks to the armor lady, and his whole thing is he's going to go to Mandalore. He's going to go to this mine. He's going to bathe in these waters or whatever. That'll redeem him, and he'll be able to come back to this particular sect of Mandalorians. So yeah, that's the whole setup for like what he's doing. Particularly dangerous though is the city's not the city but the planet itself is supposed to be like poisoned and
Yeah.
glassed up and
Strictly rumor though. There's no proof of this
right.
because Homeboy went and got a piece of the planet or whatever it was, that little jade crystal that he had.
Yeah.
So obviously somebody's been there. So, and I think that's going to link to IG-11 is, a droid, if it is poisoned, he can go down there. That's what I'm thinking. And he doesn't trust any other droid but that one. So, he's not going to risk Grogu if the planet is poisoned. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense why he would want a bot to go down there.
Yeah, no, that does make super sense. But it's interesting because he goes to visit Bo-Katan to
Mhm.
try and join her version of the Mandalorians, but because he has the dark saber, she's lost. No one has any loyalty to her, so they're all gone.
Yeah.
She's just sitting in some empty Mandalorian castle on this throne, just bitter. I think she's gonna end up becoming. I don't know if I want to say villain, but there. That's I don't. I see her coming after Din Djarin for that dark saber.
I
I
think
don't know if.
everybody's going to be coming after him for that dark saber. It's a symbol of power in a galaxy. I mean, you don't have the Empire right now, so
Right.
somebody's gonna need that. It's like I said, it's a totem of power.
You can get every Mandalorian, that's out there to follow you if you just, and she
Yeah,
mentioned that in the show. Just wave the fucking dark saber around
yeah,
and
yeah. It's called an instant army.
yeah, insta army.
Which I don't know how good they are because they had trouble with the giant alligator. So
They made some really dumb choices with that alligator. Like, it's an alligator, it's gonna roll. So why are you like shooting cables into it? Because yeah, it just death rolls.
yeah,
Um,
it kind of reminded me of Gulliver's Travels when they try to strap the guy down.
Yeah,
That's exactly what it was.
yeah, it's not working at all. So yeah, that was kind of interesting to see. I thought that was funny that Din Djarin, the apostate, had to come save him, but he did. Um, so we got to see him, go up against. So there's a new pirate villain though. He comes across some pirates. Because another thing you see is he goes back to Navarro, where basically this whole thing started. Where that
Hmm.
mercenary guild. He goes back, and you see how much different it is now. Creatures that were being like cooked on the street are now like in the trees and shit, running free, and an old bar is now a school. Just an overall improvement. Um,
I
the
do
Carl.
appreciate I do appreciate the throwback though, Don, to the laughing
Yeah,
guy from Jabba's palace.
yeah,
They're all in the trees and shit. I appreciate that they brought the Fricks in.
yeah. The
Um,
Babu Freak. Although that's not. Apparently, that
it's
wasn't
not,
Babu Freak, but
they have a name.
and
They have a name, but
Zillions.
I didn't. Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't catch it quick enough, but yeah, a little bit of tie-in to the newer trilogy, So
That's nice to see because I like the newer trilogy and I liked Babu Freak. He was I don't know, I liked him.
yeah,
So yeah, the conditions are improving in Navarro. I can't remember the character's name, but Carl Weathers plays him. That main bounty hunter guy. Now he's what a something magistrate. Greater magistrate, or he's running the whole show. But I guess some pirates, they come and they hassle. But Mando just happens to be there, so they deal with that. But yeah, their main leader though catches Mando out in space. Mando takes care of the fighter pilots.
Don, what did you think about that space battle? I thought that it was very Empire Strikes Back-ish with the asteroid
With
field.
the yeah, no, him using the asteroids. I no, I had the same feeling. Empire Strike Back all day. No, that's exactly how I felt.
Hmm.
Also, all those pirates are like really heavily armed, so we see
Well,
that a lot in this show. Where like old Empire and Separatist, major military assets like are falling in the hands of just like random gang members and thugs, out in the outer
yeah,
rim.
yeah, the spice traders from Book of Boba Fett. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a bunch of them out there. I mean, like I said, there's no central power anymore. Everything's a struggle for power.
So me, I'm the Star Wars fanboy. I loved it, obviously, but like you said, you didn't really get any hype for it or nothing, but you did watch it. So again, I love it. What are you thinking so far after this first episode? How you feeling about it? How you excited to see the next episode?
I mean, it wasn't that I wasn't hyped for it. I was hyped for it. I just
Just
didn't remember when it came out. They didn't do a good enough job drilling it into my brain to
yeah,
release it, and I'm a pretty diehard Star Wars guy for the
sure.
most part, and I had no idea that it was coming out. The promotion for this show was awful. They had what, two trailers. They had a teaser trailer and then the trailer I think at D23,
Yeah.
and that's it. Like there was nothing. Like no Facebook ads, no Twitter ads, nothing. Like this is the worst promoted Disney property I think I've ever seen. I think Solo got a better promotional marketing scheme than this
Right.
thing, man. Like I don't know. I guess they just expect people just to show up. I,
Yeah.
I, I really do. But speaking of the show, I think it's in a good direction right now. I like where it's going. I like that the characters that they introduced and brought back, and it feels whole. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because they're bringing things back from season one. Not so much season two, but I think they'll get into that
Yeah.
later. They're not going to just leave it out. That's such a good season like that. They're not going to leave out details from that. Everything will come back around full circle. It always does in this show.
Yeah. But you're right. That is really the only major theme from season 2 is the fact that he's an apostate.
Yep.
What do you think about the explanation of Cara Dune? Do you think we're going to see that character again, or do you think it's canceled, gone?
No, you'll never see her again. I
Okay.
don't think you'll. I don't think you'll ever see her again. I think
So
she's
that,
made too much of a. So I think she's made too much of an ass out of herself in the real world that you'll probably her. It's what's her face, Morano, right?
yeah,
Um,
Gina Carano.
Yeah. She's made too much of a hubbub. Woke culture has gotten a hold of her, and you'll probably never see her again. At least you'll see her in small roles, but I don't see her ever appearing on Disney again.
Yeah, for
Unfortunately.
sure. Yeah.
I mean, she can't. I mean, she's not exactly like a great actress, but I thought that
No.
she was. I thought that she was a presence on the show. I mean, it was always nice to hang out with her for a while. I thought she was an interesting character, but you know,
Oh,
I
I think it's very interesting. You're right though. It wasn't good acting, but she was able to act the part that she played, which was like she's like the Brianna Tarth, the Mandalorian series, So you talk about being canceled, for woke reasons or whatnot, but like here we are, we have a woman that's like a total badass, empowered in this series, and is now gone.
it's just written
Um,
off. Yeah,
you
she's
know,
out in space somewhere. She's doing. She got. What did she get? Recruited.
recruited, yeah, by the special
Yeah,
forces.
yeah. So we'll never see her again.
So just because of some, internet buffoonery, but it is what it is.
Yep.
Yeah, I love the references though of the Heidi and Way. Something I'm familiar with. Use it in the pen and paper game when we play.
You know what I have hopes for, Don? I
What's
have
that?
hopes. I have hopes that IG-11 will
Mm-hmm.
somehow bring up IG-88. How cool would that be to have the second best bounty hunter in the galaxy come back, and then
You know,
somehow link it to like Book of Boba Fett because it got a season
yeah,
two, right? It is clear for a season two, right?
yes, yeah, yes, it
Oh,
is.
okay. So how cool would it be to get some of the best bounty hunters in Book of Boba Fett? Spice up that show a little bit. Maybe IG-11 is the link to Book of Boba Fett season 2. I think
Yeah,
that'd be
that
cool.
could
Bring
be.
bring
Yeah,
back
very
Box, bring back Dengar. You know what I mean? Like bring back some of these old Empire bounty hunters that were
right.
so
Borsk.
badass and menacing in Empire when
Yeah,
they're all lined up with Darth Vader. Oh my god, oh man, I love that scene so much. And they never said a word.
yeah.
Boss
No, they
growled.
didn't.
Bo-
Yeah, boss.
Boss, boss, boss growled. IG-88 literally just had a red light flicker, and I'm like, this is the most badass shit ever.
Yeah, that whole group just took off. Of course, Boba Fett being, prime among them. It is a
Hmm.
popular character, the IG-88. I can't say I can remember all of their fates. I do want to say though they may get dealt with in Rebels or the. But no, I agree with you. We want to see more bounty hunter types, more scum and villainy, as far as Boba Fett goes and stuff like that. I love that show, as I do most Star Wars stuff. But I can't agree with the criticism though. It's like we got like this honorable Boba Fett. Like I don't know, I don't understand. That's kind of a paradigm shift there in the character. But so yeah, let's
But
get more into
I think
scum and
I think
villainy.
it would, but I think it would be great for old heads like us to bring
Sure.
in the old bounty hunters from Empire. I think that
Yeah.
would be a nice little full circle story, you know?
Yeah. I cannot disagree.
Plus, it wouldn't hurt the show. I mean, it's been trashed by fans and critics. Like, it's not that good. It was fine for what it is. I mean, it had bad spots, and just the overall story was just a mess. And I don't think they really knew what they wanted to do, but they had to film it. You know what I
See,
mean?
and
Like,
I
we already put the money up for this. We got to put this
mm,
shit into production. Let's just rush it out. I think it could have been the best show they ever had they just put a little more time and thought into it instead of just here you go.
yeah, I think that see, I don't think that only because I just think they're going in a direction that nobody thinks that they're going in as far as I mean, I wouldn't have guessed at the end of that series we'd have Boba Fett riding a fucking Rancor,
Mhm.
like with the old Mandalorians that rode the Mythosaur. Like, I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting to see a Basilisk War droid, a Mandalorian Basilisk War droid. I can't wait to see one of those. I know it's coming, but when it does happen, a lot of people aren't even going to know what the hell that is.
Yeah.
But I see. I like how both now. Again, I don't know why there needs to really be two shows if this is really all going to merge into like more Mandalore shit. Because the way I see it, like, okay, Boba Fett was the Mandalore back in the old Legacy books and stuff. No longer canon, but I'm just saying that's where that character went then. Now
Yeah,
we
but they
have,
they pick and choose
yes,
what they want from
agreed.
canon.
Right,
Yeah.
agreed. Because now we have Din Djarin who's got the dark saber, which technically makes him Mandalore, and then we're going to have Grogu at some point be mature and be Mandalorian and Jedi, just like Tar Vizsla, who originally created the dark saber. So there's like three Mandalore candidates out there for different reasons. So I don't. That's why I'm like sucked into it because I think we're going to be seeing some really cool Mandalore shit, and yeah, everything is pointing that way. Again, I don't think it's where a majority of the fans think it's going to go, but I'm glad it is because I think it's more interesting than Mos Eisley, scum and villainy and stuff like that. It's cool, but I don't know, getting into this like Mandalorian. Who's gonna establish the new Mandalore? Who's gonna be the new Mandalore? That's what I'm loving about it. That's what I'm loving about it.
But I hope they don't treat Book of Boba Fett like a support show for Mandalorian again. I really hope that they put some real thought and love into this second season that they're going to be doing. I really do. I really wanted to like Book of Boba Fett. But, like I said, it had a high point and it had a low point. It was just a
Yeah,
mid show.
I mean, the high point was seeing Boba Fett escape the Sarlacc.
True.
That was really cool to see. To see him get Slave One back.
True.
He calls it a fire spray, but it is called Slave One.
No, it's the slave one.
So there's like cool parts like that. But yeah, putting just the Mandalorian Din Djarin shit like in the middle of that. Again, I liked it because I just like being in the world, and to me, this Mandalorian shit's kind of seems to be like all one thing anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see how the average person is like, what? Man, so I get the Mandalorian 2.5, season 2.5 stuff. I mean, it's not wrong. It's out of line, but it's not wrong.
Now, if you want to bring Mando in for a couple episodes, I'm fine with that, but don't
Yeah.
make it about Mando and Grogu. You need to keep the focus on Boba Fett because at the end of the day, we are turning on to a show that is literally called Book of Boba Fett.
Right.
Not
Book of Din Djarin.
Not Book of Mandalore. You know what I mean?
Book of Grogu, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was some major character development shit that happened. So yeah, it wasn't just hey, I'm here to help, and see some cool Mandalorian shit, but it's just like, hey, major character development.
I just don't know what Disney was thinking. Like, Boba Fett is your second highest grossing character in all of Star Wars, right behind Darth Vader. Boba Fett outsells merchandise wise Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, but you didn't have any faith in a show about Boba Fett. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, I wonder if they came to a realization that like, okay, we don't have enough material, and we've got too much material for the season 3 of Mandalorian, so maybe that's why they came to that. Okay, we'll stick an episode and a half of Mandalorian into Book of Boba Fett and see if that carries us. But yeah, I mean, how did they not know people would, meme that or whatever? Just distaste.
It just seems like it just seemed like a severe lack of faith in an established property. Boba Fett's been the hot shit in Star Wars since '78 when they did the Christmas special, and everybody's like, "Who is this character?" And you know what I mean? I
remember.
don't understand the logic of it.
I remember growing up with kids. I was always a Jedi Sith person. I wasn't into the bounty hunters, but no, I
I
had
was always
friends.
into the bounty hunters, man, since the first time I saw Empire. And did I ever tell you the story of Star Wars for me? I watched them backwards. I watched Return
No.
first, Empire, and then A New Hope.
Oh
Yeah,
no.
that's how my shit started off. I had to go backwards.
Hmm.
So,
Why?
but seeing all the, but I don't remember why, because the first time I ever saw Star Wars, we were staying at my aunt's, my mom's sister's house, and there was nothing
Okay.
to do up in the mountains. And so I go into the bedroom, and there's a VHS that says Star Wars, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that sounds pretty cool. I guess he had taped them in a certain order because I rewound the tape, and Return was first, and then and then Empire, and then A New Hope, and I just watched them in that order. The first time I ever saw them,
Wow,
so.
that's insanity.
What a bad starting point too. Return first? How did I stay a fan? No, I'm kidding. I love Return of the Jedi. I'm not a fan of Ewoks. That's all. They creep me out. It's the eyes, man. The pitch black marble eyes freaks me out. They look
Yeah,
like a
you don't like
snake
that.
eyes. Yeah, I don't like the eyes. I don't like Doll's eyes either. Petrified.
Dolls are creepy.
Yeah.
I like the Ewoks though.
I
But
like that in the one with Star Killer, the games, Force Unleashed.
Force
There was a
Unleashed, yes.
yeah, there was a DLC where you could take Star Killer to Endor, and one of the achievements in the game was to punt Ewoks. You had to punt 10 Ewoks, so you grab them and you kick them little fuckers. Oh, that was the best thing in video game history. Oh, I love it.
I love that game.
I did a lot more than 10, buddy. Oh, that's canon, by the way. Those games are canon. So Star Killer
Yeah.
is canon, technically. I wish they would do something with it. Like, I don't need another game per se, but give me like a live action Star Killer show. Oh, take my money. Just don't give me the quest for booty thing from the second game. Give me the first game.
Yeah, the first game was much better. Yeah, I don't think we'll ever see anything like that though because of Star Killer Base. Like, it'd be a bit redundant. I don't think they'll do that. But I'm with you. That was a cool character. I love that
Hmm.
game. That first game. I liked the second game too, but you're right. First game was a lot
Yeah, the
better.
second game was literally the quest for booty. It was all about saving his little girlfriend, and I didn't like the way it ended. I think the game felt rushed. I think that the first game was really planned out and thought out, well
Yeah.
written, interesting characters, and the second one was just okay. We have an established character, and you're gonna buy the game anyway because you love the first one, right?
Well, and they got me.
Oh, they
And
got
you
me
know what?
too.
And the major upgrade of now he has two lightsabers. That was
Yeah,
also appealing. Like, oh, okay, cool. He dual wields in this one, so that was enough to get my dumbass.
yeah, but the second game you were OP from the jump.
Yeah,
Like you
yeah,
were so
agreed.
overpowered because of the first game. I like, just like gaining your powers in the first game. I thought that was
Yeah,
way cooler. More organic story. Loved the story for that game. Loved the opening mission of that game. Getting to be Darth Vader in a game and just mowing down Wookiees and everything. Like it was just so fun.
yeah. And I remember being a little bit surprised because I had got the demo to that game, and when there was a game like that, I would play the demo over and over and over and over and over. I mean, I would just. I remember that and Devil May Cry specifically are like two demos that I probably had hundreds of hours in just playing with the physics of the game. Nonetheless, but the first demo stage is not the actual first stage of the game. So I was like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm Darth Vader. We're killing Wookiees. Like, good shit. So, me and you, Ray, we both like that Star Wars Force Unleashed game. We like a lot of things, very similar, but we're also very different. In fact, I learned this when, like I said earlier, Legend of Dragoon released for the PlayStation Network,
Mhm.
and you stated what you call fact, that it is
Fact.
the greatest RPG of all time.
This is a fact.
And I responded Just questioning that, of course, with the gif of Chrono. So, long story short, to me, and I didn't really even think this was a question, Chrono Trigger for the Super Nintendo is the greatest RPG of all time. I mean, that's a game that I play on the regular at least once every couple of years. And I'll go through some stuff as far as my case for why Chrono Trigger is the greatest RPG of all time. But I will say, by no means, guys, I loved Legend of Dragoon. Okay? I loved it. So I'm not here to say that that game was not awesome. I am not here to say that I don't understand why Ray thinks it's the greatest. Hell, like I said, I thought it was pretty cut and dry, but I have learned that Ray is not the only one that says, no, Legend of Dragoon is the greatest RPG of all time. So, Ray, floor is yours, man. Just let's have this discussion. Of course, you guys listening to the show, you know, if you're seeing it on YouTube, let me know in the comments. If you're just listening to it or whatever, at Omega Level Nerds, let me know what your pick is. But let's state our case here. So, 8-Bit Ray, why is Legend of Dragoon the greatest RPG of all time? And not Chrono Trigger.
It's an innovator. It's I could honestly say that it honestly feels like the godfather of QuickTime events, because every JRPG, you know, you just stand there and you take your turn, right? And I don't care what you play, Chrono Trigger, you play Pokemon, turn-based, you know, like that. But this game added a little something, right? It had a timing aspect. So you would hit the button at the exact proper time and you would get added damage and things like that. So in a way, that's like the originator of the QuickTime event, if you want to think about it like that. Storytelling wise, okay, now this is a story that spans over 4 discs on the PS1, released in the year of our Lord 2000. Think about a game coming out in the year 2000 on the PS1. The hardware issues alone are mind-boggling. Now, there are other games on the PS1 that are 4 disc and sometimes even more. Like Final Fantasy VIII was another long one. Final Fantasy VII. Yeah, these games that are just, they're so big that the PS1 couldn't contain them. Now, if they would have came out on the PS2, I think they would have gotten lost in the shuffle. So I'm glad they came out when they did. But Legend of Dragoon comes out in 2000. The PS1 is about to launch next year, or in 2001. And the fact that they released it then instead of waiting is a testament to them, because they made it work. Yes, there's hardware issues. It's very little bugs. And the graphics are very dated. You know, we're still using poised backgrounds and things like that, but they're very polished backgrounds. It's not like Resident Evil, where you know it's a still frame and they work the game around that. But it's very detailed, especially for a PS1, and that's a testament to that. And the storytelling alone, the story of Dart and his crew. Now, a lot of people will bring up that it's very Final Fantasy VII-ish, right? I digress. Legend of Dragoon was in production around the same time as Final Fantasy VII. It just took longer to come out because they didn't have the support of and money of Square Enix. Right. So this game took a little bit longer to you know, they didn't have such a big team like Final Fantasy had. I think that team was actually cut in half, if I remember correctly, on the documentaries and things that I've watched on it, and interviews with the people that worked on the game and things like that. So, you know, you're half-staffed, you're behind a generation, but you still kick out one of the most beautiful RPGs that I've ever seen. The storytelling, okay, look, it's translated from Japanese, all right? So the translations aren't going to be perfect every time, but the theme and the overall story, the twists and turns of that story are incredible. It's great. You know, you really get attached to these characters. And while I do love Chrono Trigger, and I do see your point as it is one of the greatest games, not just RPGs, but games, period. the storytelling I don't think can touch Legend of Dragoon, because you really do get attached to these characters, and when they go away or they die, you're just like, man, like the bromance that goes on between Dart and Aaron. I'm just like, and then he goes away, and you're like, oh, well, shit. This is still disc one, and you're feeling this. You got three more discs, man, of
Yeah.
storytelling. You have a lot of adventuring to do. And then the magic system, which is really interesting to me, is the Dragoon magic system.
Mm-hmm.
Like when it's almost like going Super Saiyan when you activate the Dragoon powers. And there's things that you can do. If you're in Dragoon, you can't use magic items. You're done. You're
Yeah.
healing. Everything is cut. So you have to really strategize. You're gonna have to have a set healer that has to have a Dragoon stone and things like that. It's really intricate, and the battle system is great. It's fluid. I really can't say too much more about it. It's just overall, you know how you have them games where they just make you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Legend of Dragoon is one of those games that just make me feel like the world's not a shithole. You know what I mean? So yes, Legend of Dragoon to me, is the greatest RPG of our day or any day, and I'm getting to play it again for the first time in probably about maybe close to 20 years, because finding a copy is hard to do these days, and if you do find one for a complete copy, you're paying over $100. And if you want it with a manual, that's over 250. Like, it's crazy, because at the end of the PlayStation life cycle, they did not release very many copies of PS1 games, because they're like, we're wrapping this shit up.
Yeah.
We're moving on to PS2. So finding a complete copy of Legend of Dragoon is, it's not the most difficult task in the world, but it's pricey. So that was long-winded. How long did I run for? About 5-6 minutes on that one. Whew. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm exhausted. But
Well,
I'm not gonna say that Chrono Trigger is not an amazing game. I really do. It's up there in the top tier of any, not just RPGs, but games in general. I love that game. But it's just Legend of Dragoon just has a special place in my heart.
I completely understand, because I feel the exact same way, really, about a couple of different games. Final Fantasy IV was,
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
I played
yes.
the original Final Fantasy for the Nintendo, and then of course when Final Fantasy IV came out as Final Fantasy II on the Super Nintendo, that's when
Mhm.
I was 11 years old at that point. So yeah, I played the original Final Fantasy, but I never seriously played through it. I was too young. So Final Fantasy IV really being my entry into the RPG realm. And there was good RPGs between Final Fantasy IV and Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger was pretty late in the life cycle of the Super Nintendo. It came out in 1995. So we are talking about games that came out. Let's see, the North America, 2000 for Legend of Dragoon. So we do have 5 years between these two. Of course, Chrono Trigger, and this is really going to be my first point in favor of Chrono Trigger, is yes, it's 16-bit versus Legend of Dragoon's 32-bit. And Legend of Dragoon does have full motion video, which was good looking. It looked great. But the 2D graphics holds up better, at least when the characters in the environment. Not saying Dragoon's bad, but I'm just saying, to me, if you play one over the other today, I just think graphically Chrono Trigger holds up there. But as far as the storytelling, the full motion video, Legend Dragoon does have an advantage there, but everywhere else graphically, I Chrono Trigger just, it aged a lot better for me. The PS1 3D era was rough. Again, a lot of great games I played in that era, but it was a rough with the 3D polygons and whatnot. So And you mentioned Super Saiyan's 8-bit Ray. Of course,
Yep.
Chrono Trigger, the art direction or the art, the concepts and all that is done by Akira Toriyama, who, of
Toriyama. Yep.
course, is the Dragon Ball Z,
Dragon
he,
Quest. He also,
he's
he
the
also
guy.
you can tell that Dragon Quest is an Akira Toriyama,
Yes,
creation. Well, not a
he
creation,
is.
but he did all the art for the characters, the modeling, and all that. So yeah, they're very Dragon Ball esque.
So yeah, to me, the art, the graphics, although it is a 16-bit game versus a 32-bit game, although it does not have the beautiful full motion graphics that Legend of Dragoon has, to me, in the area of graphics art, I'm still edging out here with Chrono Trigger.
Bits will always look better than graphics, my friend.
Yeah,
Always.
I agree. I agree. Battle system. Okay. This is where me and Ray are not going to differ too much here because although I've seen a lot of people bitch about this online now that try to get back into Legend of Dragoon, they say it's such a slog because of where you're talking about those quick time, particularly Lavits and Alberts, man, theirs were fucking
Yep.
crazy hard.
You
But
just have to get your timing down.
yeah,
That
it's
you just have to learn each character's timing and then you're good to go. I don't know why it's so hard for people to pick up on that. It's been a thing for 20 years. I just don't get it. People are complaining for no reason. They're complaining just to shit on something about the game. Besides the fact that it was released buggy, they
yeah,
did patch it since then. And I bought it, and then I heard that it was buggy and it would black your game out because they did something to the coding. Because this isn't just a re-release. This is a remaster.
yeah,
So they bumped everything up. They bumped the sound up. They bumped the graphics a little bit, smoothed everything out essentially. But doing that, they fucked up the code somehow. So if you used your Dragoon magic, and it was randomized, it wasn't like a certain point of the game, but it would just black your game out.
mm,
The screen would dissolve, and then it would just be a black screen. Now, fortunately, when they released it, there is a rewind feature, just like they did with Resident Evil and a couple of the other re-releases that they put out. Uh, but it didn't. You couldn't go back far enough, and then you had to start your game over, and people were bitching. Took them about a
mm,
week to get a patch in, but now it runs smooth. I'm not hearing any other complaints. So I'm not going to invest possibly up to 40 plus hours of my life into a game if it's just going to black out. So I can
yeah,
see why people were a little pissed off.
yeah, absolutely. Now let's
That's an
talk
investment,
about
man. And
yeah,
at our age, man, we don't really have time like that between movies, TV shows, our other interests. There's just not a lot of time to put into these super long RPGs. So if it's going to be buggy, I'm going to be a little iffy if I'm going to invest that kind of time into it.
oh yeah. Oh, please. I playing Octopath Traveler. I couldn't get through that. I was like, oh, it's just. So, yeah, I'm pretty picky. Wish I could be excited about the new Final Fantasy. But nonetheless, moving
Yeah,
along,
yeah.
though. All right, so let's talk about sound. Boy, both of these, honestly, I can remember the music. But to me, the Chrono Trigger soundtrack is just more iconic. I'm not saying Legend of Dragoon's music is bad because I remember it being very good. In fact, I'm hearing it in my head right now. Just in
Hmm.
like the options menu. I don't know. But definitely as you're moving along in the world map, it's not really a world map though, which is kind of a point against it. I'll talk about that in a minute. Um, but Chrono Trigger to me
Uh,
had more iconic
the battle
music.
music,
Yeah.
the
Oh
battle
yeah.
music in Legend of Dragoon always just sticks in my head. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. I mean, it was rocking. I mean, it definitely had energy in that regard in the RPG. Um,
That soundtrack was so good, Don, that they did release it as a CD. You could buy it, the whole album. So I haven't found one because it was a limited thing, but if I find
yeah,
one, I will pick it up.
So,
But you're right. Chrono Trigger does have a very epic, not epic, but like
yeah.
a very, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Fluid soundtrack. Like,
Yeah, fluid, recognizable. I mean, it's just great. I mean, I just remember working at GameStop
Mhm.
and just popping it in, just listening to it all day.
It is a
Uh,
very good soundtrack, and I think the guy that did the music for Final Fantasy IV actually did the one for Chrono Trigger as well, right?
mm-hmm.
Maybe that's why you're so nostalgic on the music for it so much, because I think
Well,
it was the
not only
same
this,
guy.
get this, Ray, get this, right? So, yeah, I
Mhm.
played Final Fantasy IV on Super Nintendo. I played Chrono Trigger. I traded those games away. Those games became like rare. We're talking like PS1 era, so there wasn't all this remake, Steam shit. And then what do? They release Final Fantasy Chronicles. What is Final Fantasy Chronicles? Final
I
Fantasy
know what
IV
it is.
Chrono Trigger. I was
Yep.
like, with added some added full motion video. I was like, yes, that was like my favorite back in the day.
I think I had a greatest hits copy of that.
Yeah, I've got a couple copies of
Mhm.
that anthology for sure. All right, so let's get into the nitty gritty because I think me and Ray have kind of stated our case as to why. I mean, well, let me talk about the story of Chrono Trigger because you touched upon the story of Legend of Dragoon. So basically, what had happened was this big giant meteor monster thing falls from the sky in like the dinosaur era, and it stays there until it sucks enough energy of the earth until it's able to come to the surface and destroy the earth. Um,
Don, why does
so
that sound like the plot to the Super Mario Brothers movie?
because it's actually quite similar. uh, so yeah, so in this time adventure, and that's the thing, and so to me, just living this in my head, reliving this in my head, like this was really the first RPG that I can think of that ever dealt with time travel. So you're this kid named Chrono, and you get involved with this princess of your kingdom, and it turns out her pendant is able to activate some time portal, so she goes back in time. Your friend, who's a smart inventor chick named Luca, says, "Hey, I can probably get you to back in her time so you can go rescue her." You're able to do that. Um, and again, basically, you come to find out through trying to fix these things through time travel, because at first you can time travel, but you can't like time travel to wherever you want. You do get to a certain point in the game where you've got like a time traveling machine, or you can reach the end of time and you've got time traveling portals, and you can travel around that way. But as the game first starts off, you kind of go where you have to, and so you go to the future where there's like barely no humans, everyone's starving, and you learn that this Lavos character is going to destroy the earth. So this game is all about like traveling through time, doing what you have to do to try and stop Lavos. And along with that story, this was also one of the first games that had like multiple endings. It had like 16 or so multiple endings, and that's because you could literally fight because it had a new game plus. Okay, you could go through the whole game and you could start again, and you could get all these different endings because there's like multiple times that you can beat Lavos. You can beat Lavos like your first 5 minutes in the game. You actually get the best ending of the whole game if you're able to do that. You only have Chrono and the first character Marl, and then you can warp right to Lavos, the end guy, and beat him and get the best ending. But just the Kingdom of Zeal, you get involved with the Kingdom of Zeal, which is this magic kingdom that got ruined because Lavos was able to manipulate the queen into digging into the earth to use this mammoth machine to suck up magic. Um, yeah, it's just, and then of course you and your friends at some point come together, beat Lavos. It's just epic. You're able to recruit. There's a major villain in the game, Magus, who uses a scythe. I'm a sucker for people that use his scythes. He's like the major villain for the first part of the game, but then he comes to your party at some point. The main character dies. You
That's
can beat the game while the main character is dead. Of course, you can go through adventures and revive him, and So
Yeah.
yeah, just awesome. So again, you can see my love for Chrono Trigger, why I think Chrono Trigger is the greatest RPG of all time, and you hear why Ray thinks Legend of Dragoon is the greatest RPG of all time. So make sure you let me know, either tweeting at Omega Level Nerds or in the comments of our YouTube show. But let's get down to the nitty gritty, Gray. Before we let everybody decide here, let me just spit a couple of stats here, just so we can get a fair comparison. Although this doesn't discount your experience. So, when Chrono Trigger first released, it sold 2.3 million copies worldwide.
Mostly in Japan.
A lot in Japan, like only
Mm-hmm.
289,000 in North America. I can't believe I was one of 289,000 people. That's crazy.
Yeah, I didn't think about getting the sale. I didn't think about getting the sales numbers for Legend of Dragoon. So, if you have that information, I'd love to hear that.
Well, it sold more than 1 million copies worldwide, with most of the sales coming from North America. So overall, less sales, but more sales in North America. So you can argue that here in North America, sales-wise, it was actually outperformed Chrono Trigger. So that's how you
But you
look
got to
at
think
it, sort of thing.
that's a different market though. You
It
know,
is.
because the Super Nintendo was flooded with great JRPGs back in the
Mm-hmm.
day, so it was kind of hard to pick and choose. Um, but towards the end of the PlayStation life cycle, there wasn't very many RPGs, JRPGs especially, that came out. So the fact that it did so well is astonishing to me. I was a day one customer. I got it from Electronic Boutique. I had it on pre-order, and I got a cool poster that was like this, and it was on my wall until the day that it got ripped off somehow. I don't remember how, a dog or something. But
Yeah.
uh but I was one of those people, man, because I was like, I love JRPGs, and this game is just, it just seems like it's for me. I love the dragon, aspect of it, the dragon powers, and
That is cool.
I thought Dart looked awesome. So I thought he was the coolest, character, maybe next to Cloud, that I had seen on that system. So, yeah.
You're not wrong.
And, and a lot of people will say that they rip off Final Fantasy a lot, but I'm telling you, like, oh, Dart kind of looks like Cloud in a way. He's just a recolor of Cloud, and I'm just like, yes, but no.
Yeah, that's a little far. That's a little far.
But you got to remember, like, that spiky haired look. It was a lot easier to do with hardware
Right.
features. With the
Exactly.
with the hardware for PlayStation, it was just easier to do than to do smoothed out hair and things like that. So they work with what they had, and there's characters in Legend of Dragoon that remind you of Sephiroth, a white-haired man that destroys a town that
Yeah.
Dart, used to live in. That sounds familiar. Sephiroth, anyone? Cue the theme, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's questionable. But like I said, they were being done at the same time. So who ripped
Mm-hmm.
off who here?
Right.
You know? We'll never know. No one will ever say, and I kind of like it that way.
I think the battle system's enough to differentiate it, so
Oh
I
yeah, yeah.
never I never had a
The,
problem with
the
those similarities.
yeah, the innovations on the battle system were just, to this day, I think, still hold up. For turn-based at least.
Um I will say, and again, you may perceive this as a point for Chrono Trigger, but of course, we got Chrono Trigger released on the Super Nintendo, released on the PS1, as I described in Final Fantasy Chronicles, re-released on the DS. Then there's an Android version, and now a Steam. Whereas Legend Dragoon has only been released for the PlayStation and now the PlayStation Network. So Chrono
Yeah, it
Trigger's
was.
definitely got a lot more remakes.
If you had a PS3 back in the day when they first introduced PlayStation Network back in the day, it was on there. Or PS Now, I believe it was called back then.
Mm-hmm.
It was on there. It was on there. And then, like every other good game that was on there, it miraculously disappeared. Never to be seen again until about a week ago. So, the only way to play that game was to get a physical copy for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
While you can openly play Chrono Trigger. I mean, you can
On
emulate
my
it,
iPhone.
sure. Yeah.
I have it on my
Yeah. But I
iPhone.
mean, yeah, I mean, you could emulate it, sure, but I mean, like, it's not the same, as
Mm-mm.
plugging it into a PS1, or if you got a PS2, or hell, if you got a PS3, you can throw them PS1s, in there. I wish the PS5 did that, but this thing is garbage. Um,
Oh no.
uh, yeah, it doesn't play anything but PS5 and PS4 games. I'm like, what about the
Yeah.
rest? I have PS1 and PS2 games back here I'd love to play, but I can't. No reverse compatibility. So, uh, big waste
That's
of
too bad
$500 of
because
my life.
that would sell it for me.
But so we have Legend of Dragoon. It's available now. It's cheap, guys. It's $10 digitally. If you want to wait for a sale or something, it'll drop in price.
You,
You want to take a risk on it, but $10 to take a risk on probably um you know the greatest RPG of all time. I'm gonna say it. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It is the best RPG of all time.
it's right now is a cool but difficult time for me because yeah, obviously I like old school JRPGs, and right now, just for the span of just a couple of months or whatever, obviously we're talking about them putting Legend of Dragoon on the PlayStation Network. There was also Suikoden 1 and 2 remasters that were done recently, and also Chrono Cross. And I'm like, I want to play one of them here. I'm just having a hard time. Which one?
It's an
But
investment. It's a time investment, man. What do you got
yeah,
time for? You know?
not a lot of that. Couple.
JRPGs are never short. I've never played a short one under like 20 hours. Like
Mythic Quest, Final
maybe
Fantasy Mythic Quest was pretty short. It was like
okay, yeah,
15
well,
hours.
yeah, it was pretty short. Yeah, I will give it
But
that.
that was also supposed to be like an entry level RPG. All right, well all right. Let's talk reviews here, okay? And we'll just lot less review sites for Dragoon, so we'll just compare apples to apples here. So Metacritic gives Legend of Dragoon 74 out of 100. I think it's a little bit extra to have a scale to 100, but okay. Metacritic gave Chrono Trigger 92 out of 100. So Famitsu 31 out of 40 for Legend of Dragoon. 34 out of 40 for Chrono Trigger. But here we go. GamePro,
Oh shit.
5
Going
out of
back in the
5.
day.
5 out of 5 for Legend of Dragoon.
They got some good people working there.
I guess at the time of Chrono Trigger, it was a 20 scale because Chrono Trigger gets 20 out of 20 for GamePro. So I guess 5 years earlier, they had a different scale. GameSpot, 6.4 out of 10 for Legend of Dragoon. 8.5 out of 10 for Chrono Trigger.
How is that website still running? How is GameSpot still a thing with that kind of review?
IGN, 7 out of 10 for Legend of Dragoon. 9.5 for Chrono Trigger.
They're paid off.
And then lastly, Next Generation did not. Okay, nope. They gave Legend of Dragoon 4 out of 10, but. Oh, no.
4 out of 10?
Or no. Sorry, 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5 stars for Legend of Dragoon. 4 out of 5 stars for Chrono Trigger. So.
I was about to say, was it some Kotaku hating motherfuckers? Is that what that was? They hate everything.
Unfortunately, I do not see here that Legend of Dragoon won any game awards, while Chrono Trigger won from Electronic Gaming Monthly, which, take it a grain of salt. Magazine's a lot more prevalent in 1995 than 2000. But anyway, from Electronic Gaming Monthly, got Best Super Nintendo Game, Best Role-Playing Game, Best Music in a Cartridge-Based Game. GamePro gave it the Best RPG Game Award, and Nintendo Power Awards gave it Best Super Nintendo Game, Best Epic Game, Best Story, Best Ending, coolest transportation for Epoch, the time traveling machine, and worst baddie as the
I,
juggler.
would- I, I don't know. I kind of think Earthbound had the best travel system, but that's just me.
You know what? I have not played. Earthbound has never been my cup of tea. What is your method of travel there?
It's weird. It's like a really fast, like rocket. Like you just go really, really
Okay.
fast. You take your whole squad with you, super duper fast. You never played Earthbound,
Nah,
or is
man.
it was in Japan Mother 2?
Yeah. No, that
Dude,
whole style.
the end battle is in a womb. There's a
Oh
baby in the
yeah, no,
background.
I know how crazy that shit is. No, I've seen the
Oh
videos.
yeah. Oh yeah,
But
Earthbound's crazy. How they made it in, how Ness made it into Super Smash Bros. I have no idea, but hey,
yeah, but I was just never interested in that whole style. I don't know if
I
it
believe
wasn't
I
like.
believe you can I believe you can play Earthbound on the Switch Online. I
Oh,
believe it's on there. And the
that and
Super
my
Nintendo.
Super Nintendo Mini I have.
Hmm.
I know I should sit down and play it one day and either record or stream doing it.
There's a
But
lot. There's a lot of RPGs out there that we could recommend to people, but I think honestly, I would recommend Legend of Dragoon and Chrono Trigger. I think would be yours. I think that's fair to say, right?
yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I believe Chrono Trigger is the greatest RPG. But listen, I'm not here to say don't go play Legend Dragoon. I love that game.
Yeah, we're not here downplaying each other's favorite games. We both
Yeah,
love each other's games. It's not even like that. It's just a little competitive rivalry that's
yeah,
leaked over from Twitter, and we get on here and we debate, but it's all love. It's the love of the RPG scene, you know.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the fact that you can now go play Legend Dragoon after it's had a very big hiatus is actually very awesome.
People have
So
been demanding it forever. Like we've been wanting it for so long
why
because
did they
it's
not
one of the
continue the series? I mean, it's not like the ending was such that there couldn't be some sort of continuation.
no, it was a it
Um,
was a closure. Yeah, the ending of the game is just it's a closure. Like I'm not going to spoil the ending for anybody that
yeah,
wants to play the game, but just know that like you can't really talk about the story of Legend of Dragoon without talking about all the I call them Game of Thrones twists and turns. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
yeah,
people betraying each other and you find new companions along the way, and because of certain events you get these new companions, and you just can't talk about the story because it's dragged over a 4 disc story. Most people that play Legend of Dragoon will not make it past that first disc. Or if they have, they don't really remember the second, third, or fourth disc. And it's not because the story is bad or it drags. It's because they pack so much shit into that first disc. I would say maybe the first 2 discs. They pack so much story into that, and they really create this world. And then the third and fourth disc are you're kind of finishing off the story.
hmm
So there's just so much going on in Legend of Dragoon. And while Chrono Trigger does have a very very, I would say that Chrono Trigger, the story is a lot more easily to digest.
oh
You know,
yeah,
if you're not really into that epic fantasy and you want a fun little like time travel game and monsters and it's all fun. Then I would say like I would say that Legend of Dragoon is more for experienced RPGers. So, if you can get a copy of Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross, anything Chrono really, I would say that's a good gateway to a JRPG instead of jumping into something like I don't know, something like a Final Fantasy 3.
hmm
Well, and fortunately for Final Fantasy, everyone's different, so you don't need to play the one before it. You don't have to understand
yeah,
the story because every story is different. Legend of Dragoon is one story, so there you go.
yeah. Well, yeah. I'll say check them both out. But I
Yep.
would like to know again in the comments at Omega Level Nerds on Twitter what your choice is. Is it Legend Dragoon? Is it Chrono Trigger? Or is it something like super obscure like Shining Force 2, which my buddy Halo Drama is his favorite. He says it's the greatest RPG of all time. So let me
That
know
was
in
on
the
Sega.
comments.
That was on Sega, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Sega had some good RPGs on it that no one ever talks about. You're right. Shining Force was one of those really good ones. I rented it from the video store back in the day. I love that game. That's great.
Yep, good
Good. To
shit.
see. Yeah.
All right, Larry. Well, before we sign off here, of course, at 8-Bit Ray on Twitter, at Gorilla Brain Pod on Twitter.
At 8-Bit Ray on Twitch, Monday. Actually, I should be live right now, but hey, it's fine. They, at 8-Bit Ray on Twitch. So,
All
you
right.
can follow me up. Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10 p.m.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming by. I love always having these discussions with you because we do land on the opposite ends of things from time to time, but it's
Yeah,
always.
we didn't talk about the Bad Batch, but that's okay. That's okay.
Well, because, I was going to say something about it when you were talking about the marketing because it is kind of strange that they do have two shows out right now.
That no
Like,
one knows about. Yeah, it's weird.
but I figure maybe for another day when it
I
wraps
think the
up.
people I think the people that work for DC have now entered into this universe now.
Yeah, maybe. All of a sudden we'll have three Luke Skywalkers.
Yeah, don't worry about it. They'll show up. It's fine. We don't have
Yeah.
to explain anything or promote it.
But I guess we're probably maybe because we both, of course, contribute to Superhero Speak podcast. So they're gonna have a 500th episode coming up soon. So me and Ray are probably be on it. So check us out there as well.
It's gonna be a full house. I think it's gonna
It'll
probably
be
be the biggest show
crazy.
they've ever done. Yeah,
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 I'll just try to get a joke in, like 3 jokes in when I can,
yeah.
and have
My whole goal is just to make John like quit the episode. That's gonna be my main goal.
good luck. Good luck. All right. Well, you can, of course, tweet at the show, guys, at Omega Level Nerds. Like I said before, let us know what your choice for greatest RPG of all time is. And if you don't want to tweet, you can always Omega Level Nerds at Gmail. Email us. Would be ever so grateful. Thank you for sticking with us. Thank you again, 8-Bit Ray, for joining me once again. I'm sure you'll
Anytime,
be
my man.
here soon. I'm sure we'll see you again soon.
Hey,
Thank everyone so much.
Mandalorian.
Go ahead.
Mandalorian's running, man. I'm gonna be here.
Yes. All right. Good. Good. That's what I want. Is we'll watch it. We'll talk about it, and we'll see. I'm excited to see the rest of it. So be back with us when we talk about more Mandalorian and any other stuff going down on the Mega Level Nerds.